One day, a pearl diver went searching for these valuable jewels of the ocean. While swimming in the deep waters, he encountered a fish. The diver asked the fish, "O fish, you who can swim so easily in the ocean, tell me, where should I look for pearls?" The fish, intrigued by the diver's words, replied, "O human, what is this ocean you speak of?" "What do you mean?" said the diver. "Don't you know the ocean? It is that thing which is everywhere around you and even passes through you." The fish looked around, but it couldn't see or feel anything. "I do not understand. There is nothing around me," it replied. "Come with me," said the diver. He took the fish to the surface of the water and pulled it out for 1 second. In that second, the fish saw the entire ocean and immediately understood. We tend to think that we know the world better than we ever did in the past. We have founded a science upon the assumption that there is a physical universe out there which exists independently of our mind and upon which our mind actually depends. But could this assumption be misleading us and preventing the deepening of our knowledge? Without consciousness, there wouldn't be anything at all. We know something exists because we are conscious. A paradigm that reduces the universe to physical processes ignores the very existence of us subjects who are the constant experiencing of the universe. In a way, the universe arises within each and every one of us, for consciousness is necessary for its existence. Matter and energy are useful concepts to explain certain phenomena, but they remain ideas arising within a subject's mind. What is that mind made of? Conscious experience cannot be explained in terms of matter or energy or of any other physical process. Although it seems to correlate with certain physical processes in the brain, even if we knew all the neural correlates of consciousness, we still wouldn't know what subjective experience is actually made of. What is the greenness of green made of? Or the experience of hearing my voice right now? What is this strange substance that cannot be seen or touched, but of which seeing and touching are made? It is a quality so basic to our experience that we cannot even begin to describe it. It seems to be a fundamental building block of the universe. Let's consider 2 arguments against physicalism that may help us open our minds to this idea. The first is Thomas Nagel's famous paper, "What is it like to be a bat?" In it, Nagel argues that even if we had all the theoretical knowledge about how bats' brains process information, we still wouldn't be able to know what it actually feels like to be a bat, because that's only possible through the direct experience of being one. If you were asked to imagine what it is like to be 30 feet tall, you would be more or less able to do it, since that is very similar to your current experience as a human being. You just have to imagine seeing the world from a higher perspective. But if I asked you to imagine what it would be like to perceive space through echolocation like bats do, that would be impossible, since such a state of consciousness is drastically different from your own. Another well-known thought experiment in philosophy of mind is Mary's room. Mary is a scientist that studies light and color. She has all the theoretical knowledge that can ever be produced about the physical properties of light, the eye's perception of color, and of how the brain processes information. However, Mary is completely colorblind, as she lives in a black and white room and interacts with the outside world through a screen that only allows her to see in different shades of gray, ranging from black to white. Now the question is, does Mary know what color is just by knowing all the theory about it without having ever experienced it? If Mary one day exits her room and stops seeing the world through the black and white screen, even though she knew everything about the physics of light and the psychology of perception, she will still learn a new property of the universe, the experience of color. These 2 thought experiments show us that subjective experience cannot be reduced to a physical process or to theoretical knowledge. Even if we pinpointed exactly what neural processes were correlated with the experience of the color red, we would never be able to access that experience, just like a colorblind scientist would never know what red is just by looking at a brain scan. That's why subjective experience seems to be a fundamental and irreducible aspect of reality. Now that we've established that conscious experience is as real as anything else in the universe, we can explore the role that it has in determining what we call reality. We often assume that consciousness emerges from physical processes in the brain, as if it's a mere byproduct. However, this assumption overlooks a critical fact. The very notion of physical processes is itself something that arises within consciousness. Without a conscious observer, the concept of a brain or a neuron firing wouldn't exist. This is similar to how the fish immersed in water couldn't recognize it until it experienced something outside of it. Just as the fish needed a change in context to understand water, we might need altered states of consciousness to grasp the hidden nature of reality. These states, whether induced by meditation, dreams, psychedelics, or near-death experiences, can reveal how fluid and subjective our perception of the world really is. They challenge the rigid framework of physicalism and suggest that what we consider real may be shaped or even constructed by consciousness itself. In these altered states, the boundaries between subject and object dissolve. One might experience a sense of unity with everything, a realization that the self and the universe are deeply intertwined. This is not just abstract speculation, but a direct, visceral insight into the nature of existence, something that becomes as obvious as the existence of you in this moment. Personally, I comprehended this after a fainting experience. During the episode, I began to feel lightheaded and the sounds in the room began to buzz and felt further and further away. I quickly lay down and put my legs up on a chair. Both lights and sounds were slowly fading away and the people around me sounded like distant voices. Everything was fading away, so much so that my sense of self was also disappearing. I was losing myself into pure nothingness, or rather, I was becoming nothingness, which paradoxically seemed to be eternal. Just moments before, I had plans for the day ahead, memories of the past, ideas, desires, fears. I was a human being in its prime, but in that moment, all was disappearing. Everything was slipping away into who knows what. I was experiencing something completely different from what I was used to, but which was nonetheless very real. The fact that myself didn't exist independently was now as obvious as my previous conviction that it did. It was a revelation, a new piece of knowledge about myself, the universe, and their unity. When I woke up, I had this constant realization that I was, quote-unquote, reality with a capital R. I was part of the universe, and my whole being depended on the rest of existence. This experience culminated in my understanding that an altered state of consciousness can provide ineffable knowledge about an aspect of reality which we could not otherwise understand or describe. In other words, our state of consciousness precedes what we call real. Consider this in the context of mysticism. Mystics often describe their experiences as direct encounters with a higher reality, one that transcends the limits of language and rational thought. Their descriptions echo across cultures. The oneness of all things, a sense of timelessness, and the feeling of being deeply connected to a source beyond comprehension. These accounts might sound strange or poetic, but they all point to the same ineffable truth. This is akin to a player in a video game trying to explain to an AI character that its world is a simulation. The AI, bound by the game's rules, cannot fathom the existence of anything beyond the simulated world in which it lives. The fact that the game is just a game cannot be derived from or justified through any rules or logic from within the game. The player, existing outside the game, can see the entire structure, but their attempts to communicate this reality seem nonsensical to the AI. In a similar fashion, mystics attempt to point us toward a reality beyond our material existence, one that can only be accessed through direct experience, not through logic or physical evidence. This could mean that the experience of God is the only possible evidence for God's existence, just like our experience of the universe is the only real evidence for the existence of the universe. We are dealing with something so fundamental that it cannot be proven or refuted like we would a theory or a hypothesis. The argument for God's existence is first and foremost empirical, meaning that it cannot be debated through discussion or logic alone, and it is also subjective, since each one of us has to walk the path to that reality individually. Perhaps consciousness itself, this mysterious and invisible substance which seems to not belong to the material universe, is the bridge between worlds. It is through altered states, mystical experiences, and moments of transcendence that we catch glimpses of what might lie beyond. Consciousness, far from being a byproduct of the brain, may be the very foundation of existence, a mysterious force that connects us to something greater. As Rumi beautifully put it, "My soul is from elsewhere, I'm sure of that, and I intend to end up there." In this light, the pursuit of mystical experience is not an escape from reality, but a deeper dive into its most fundamental truths. Mysticism invites us to question the assumptions of physicalism and to remain open to the possibility that consciousness, far from being an illusion, is the key to understanding existence itself. Dear watcher, I wish you to have the doors of reality opened so that you may see the fundamental truth behind the appearance of this world. Please consider donating or subscribing if you wish to support this channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time.